Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to our course Lexical Studies. And today's topic is lexical priming. Maybe you have heard this term before this, or it might be possible that you are hearing this word for the first time, lexical priming. So, what lexical priming is, we will discuss in today's lecture in greater detail. So what is lexical priming? Lexical priming is a completely new theory of language based on how words are used in the real world. And here, according to this lexical priming, we are not confined and we are not related to the just dictionary definitions, but we will think about other contextual meaning. So, what could be the meanings of these words in different contexts? So, we can say that these are the in this according to this lexical priming, we are not concerned with denotative meaning. We are concerned with connotative meanings, or we are concerned with the meanings of meanings that are related to different contexts according to the speaker, or according to the hearer, according to the situation, according to the circumstances. So, lexical priming, we will discuss all about these things. When we see or we think about the grammar and vocabulary related to second language learning, it's a traditional view of language. According to this, our mostly we put our focus on the grammar to teach the second language and grammar and vocabulary, so that he or she can become the fluent speaker of second language, especially we are talking in the context of English language. So in our institutions, or by our teachers and by our instructors, in English language learning, vocabulary and grammar are more focused, are more paid, more attention is paid to these two things, especially as compared to other elements of the of second language learning. So, in keeping with this view, many coursebooks teach vocabulary separately from grammar, or often providing list of words to be learned along with their translations. The grammar is either taught separately or is stated to a small corner of the syllabus. Anyhow, these two things, vocabulary and grammar, are considered to make the learner an efficient user of the second language. Apart from traditional view of language learning that we have discussed, in which mainly focus of the teacher or learner on vocabulary and grammar, here is another approach. Here is another new view of language that's called lexical priming. So first of all, discuss this priming. Priming is an unconscious form of human memory concerned with perceptual identification of words and objects. It means unconsciously in our mind, in human memory, we make some sort of association of the words and objects according to the situation, and we are using those words repeatedly. So we become the expert user of those particular phrases or those particular utterances. It refers to activating particular representation or association in memory just before carrying out an action or task. So it's a common practice, and everybody knows that the task or action that is done again and again or repeatedly, the task is done. There are this process become easier to use those things or those words or those utterances that are being used again and again. So we don't feel any hesitation, we don't feel any sort of issues while using those words, phrases, utterances again and again. Lexical priming theory suggests that we are primed by our previous experience of words to expect words to be in collocations. Collocation, if you remember, we have discussed collocation was different multiple expression of words, collocations. So there are some collocation or similar words or multiple expression of some words where we have to use those multiple expressions. Priming theory or lexical priming theory, so it guides us, it gives us assistance, it's provide us assistance how to use those collocations, those multiple expressions, or those multiple or different utterances or statements or phrases or words in appropriate way in different contexts according to the situation or according to the circumstances. Here, the purpose to discuss this language theory, it will we will be also concerned about the collocation, then certain grammatical situation and certain position, as well as we will see and we will consider under this lexical priming rule. But mainly, we are related to the accurate use of the words or phrases or sentences according to the situation and context. You can see the examples. The word crazy shows that the word is used in combinations like be crazy to do something, crazy about somebody, crazy about something, drive somebody crazy, or go crazy, like crazy. That is just one word in a multiple expressions or multiple utterances or multiple usage of these words we can see. And for every common words like hard, it becomes very difficult for a dictionary to represent all the combinations that the word appears in. So in dictionary we can find out some limited usage of the word like hard. There will be very limited list of the word that or list of the utterances or list of the phrases that will be associated with this word hard. We cannot see all of the possible expression of the word hard in the dictionary. See the examples: worked hard, tried hard, fought hard, die hard, formed it hard, prayed hard, raining hard, used hard. So this is the one word, and there are multiple expressions of these words, and these the persons or native person or non-native person can become the expert user of these all these association. It depends upon the exposure, how much he or she is using those utterances in his or her daily life, and how many times he or she is encountered with these specific words or utterances or statements. Again, it occurs before in other range of the verbs in phrases such as the following: hard to believe, hard to understand, hard to imagine, hard to explain, hard to follow, hard to hear, hard to remember, and hard to bear. It occurs in a range of nouns. Next examples of the noun and noun phrases: hard luck, hard line, hard facts, hard evidence, hard lives, hard water, hard labor, hard winter, hard currency. And you can think about all these expressions or all these phrases or noun phrases or verb phrases. We are using very limited list of these words. We are not expert user of all these expressions. But when we see a native person, the person whose first language is English, he or she can be expert of all these expressions, and he or she is using all these expressions or utterances in his or her daily lives. So, and apart from this, we cannot find all these expressions in a dictionary. In a dictionary, we will see very limited list or very limited expressions we can find out. Each of these above mentioned combinations use hard. It's a slightly different way, and knowledge of the word hard includes knowledge of all these possibilities and very many more. Yet, any native speaker of English, whether intelligent or not, will have immediate and automatic access to every one of these combinations, as we have discussed already. That a native person will be able to use it. It doesn't relate it to that the person is very intelligent, so that's why he will be able to use those expressions, or he is very extraordinary, intellectual. No, it depends upon the daily routine, and it depends upon the circumstances, it depends upon the exposure of persons, or especially a native people, or native especially native speakers of that particular language encounter. This view of language assumes that language users store the words they know in the context in which they were heard or read. According to this view, according to the new theory, or according to this lexical priming theory, every time speakers encounter a word or phrase, they store it along with other words or association, and with the note of the kind of the context it was found, or whether it was a context of spoken, written, colloquial meaning informal or formal, friendly or aggressive, and so on. The words are associated according to all these contexts, and then a person or speaker can realize or can understand the next time he will be able to use in a more accurate way, or very immediate, in a immediate context. He or she can use all these expressions, the words that he already knows, that he has stored in his mind, in his brain, sorry, he has stored in his or her brain, or that things that are related to his or her memory that are being used. So he can make associations, can combine all those things according to the situation, and it's easier for the language user, for the second language user, especially if we are talking about in the context of second language learning. So it becomes easier for that person, that he can utilize all those stored knowledge, and that is based on his or her experience according to the situation or context. This process of subconsciously noticing is referred to as lexical priming. So we have encountered a situation, or we were indulged in a exposure or in a context, so the things are unconsciously stored in our mind. Or if we talk about the words or lexemes, so these words are also stored in our mind, and what associations that we make with those words, that association is also stored in our brain. So noticing all these things is what makes it possible for a speaker to use the right phrase in the right context at the right time. That's called lexical priming. The right phrase, the right word, the right association in the right exposure or extent, context, or at the right time. It means when we become competent user of that second language, it means we are using lexical priming, because it's possible at that stage. If we are learning, if we are beginner and we are learning a language at beginner stage, we are standing over there, so it's we cannot become the expert user of this lexical priming. Lexical priming is possible when a person is expert user of that language, or a native person who is dealing all of the time with that particular language, or who is using that language in his or her daily routine. So it becomes easier for him or her, that he can prime the words, or he can use the words, the right words in the right context at the right time. See those examples again that we have discussed already. Hard to believe, we use the word believe, but we, being a Pakistani or being a non-native speaker of English language, we use this word hard to believe. Mm, it's not very common. We are not using much of this hard to believe. Hard to understand, hard to imagine, hard to explain. Maybe we use this word hard to explain or hard to follow. We are not using this word hard to follow or hard to hear or hard to remember. Maybe we use the word hard to explain or hard to remember, hard to bear. It depends upon the user of that particular language. Or if we are talking about Pakistani user, majority of these expressions we are not using these expressions in our exposure or in our context, but native people are using all these expressions in their routine. So without realizing that we are doing, we all reproduce in our speech in writing a language we have heard or read before. So we use the words and phrases in the context in which we have heard about them with the meanings we have subconsciously identified as belonging to them and employing the same grammar. So we are using we are using those expressions unconsciously, subconsciously. We are not paying full attention that if we are using, being a Pakistani community or non-native speakers, we are using consciously. So in the start we have to remember hard to believe. I have to use this expression hard to believe, hard to understand. First I have to memorize these things, but native people don't memorize the things. They use the words, they encounter the situation, and they relate the things, they store the things, they store the words in their brains, and they use them unconsciously or subconsciously. But non-native speakers, maybe in the start they are using consciously, but with the practice, with a lot of practice, they become the expert user. They are also using those words subconsciously, unconsciously. This is how a native speaker are be able to fluent, and because these things they say are subconsciously influenced by what everyone has previously said to them, it's also explained why they almost sound natural. So native people, native speaker are expert user of those expressions, so that's why their language is very fluent. They speak without any stop, without any hesitation, without any break, and that, but we can say continuously they can speak without any stop, and this is become this is makes their language, makes their speaking a natural or natural touch. But when we talk about non-native peoples, so they need to pay attention, they need to use the word consciously. So there are chances of what we can say, there are chances of hesitation, there are chances of breakdown in communication when they are not fluent. So it seems to them that they are speaking in the unnatural environment. So lexical priming make the learners fluent speaker of that language. Lexical priming make the learners speak as a natural speaker of that language or natural speech. Our ability to be fluent and natural, however, limited to the situation we are familiar with. If we have heard a word used repeatedly in particular ways in casual conversation with friends, we will be able to use it confidently in the same situation. It's very simple. It doesn't follow that we will feel confident about using it in academic writing or talking to strangers. So learning a word means learning it in many different contexts, and this is all about lexical priming. So priming can provide for sets of actions in the lexical field, sets of words. Example, see the example of this word bread. When we hear this word bread, or we listen or we speak this word bread, there is a combination or some different two to three words come in our mind. Like bread, it's related to baker, it's related to bakery, or it's related to butter, it's related to knife. Or we can add jam if you are using bread with jam. So these are the related words that will come in the minds of the hearer or speaker related to this word bread. Whereas some other list of words you can see unrelated words or unrelated words of list that we can see doctor, mortar, and radiator. These are the three different things, and these are the three unrelated things. So there will be no usage of these words at a time in one situation very hard. It's very hard to use these three things in one context that is being used by the speaker. So lexical priming give us sets of action. When the word bread comes in the minds of the speaker on here, these are the other relevant words also will come in the minds of the speaker. Whereas unrelated things or unrelated words or list of words will not come, as this is as this is the related words comes in the minds. So priming help us to give us more chances, more exposure, more circumstances related to the sets of action or sets of words. Next, a factor that influences the accessibility of information in memory is priming, as we have discussed earlier. The activation of stored knowledge that accelerates through our experience when we are indulged in a context or in an exposure. It means when we encounter an exposure, when we face an exposure, and thus our stored knowledge becomes activate. This is can make prime relevant information more accessible in memory. So it's become easier for the language user, and that the prime relevant information easily comes in the minds, in the brains. And such recent construct activation can influence inferences, evaluations, decisions on the following tasks. The rest of the activities that will be done by the speaker or by using that particular language. So next activities or the following task will be influenced in in the case of using the words, in case of the using of that stored knowledge. So what we can say in simple words, we can say that the prime relevant informations are available in the mind, in the brain of the speaker. So when he is indulged with an exposure or he encounter a context, so the next of the activities will be affected by those stored knowledge, and he or she will be able to use those particular associated words that have been stored in his mind. Next example we can see here again, hard to believe or hard to understand. These are the different expressions, although related to the just one word, hard to believe or hard to understand or even hard to imagine. Three different expressions that are related to three different contexts, that are related to three different situations or contexts. So how much stored knowledge a person has, it, this prime relevant information, it's called prime relevant information. So it makes the process easy for the speaker to use those three these three expressions in an easy way or in relevant situations. So next time or next activities will also be influenced by or using these two or three expressions. So this is prime relevant information, and these are helpful. This is a helpful process that makes the learner easy to use that language in a fluent way without any break or without any hesitation. Let's see another examples. The word time, as we have discussed already different examples related to word hard. Now we will just see the word time. The word time has, as it appears in the following sentence from Lewis Carroll's novel Alice Adventures in Wonderland. It's very famous novel, and mostly children and teenagers knows about this novel very well. The sentence that is used in this novel by Carroll's, the time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things, means the walrus said the time has come to talk of many things. But we can understand by this time has come or to talk about many things. There are different exposure, there are different expressions that we can associate with this word. Different usage of the word time by every speaker would know much more than this. For example, I feel the time has come for our team to move in a new direction. Also, another expression like the time has come to declare failure. Next, the time has come to give this up. Next, the time has come to change roles. The different many expressions you can also make by yourself. The time has come to make the situation clear. The time has come to decide in a better way, or the time has come to investigate the things. Many expressions we can relate, we can associate this word time has come. So lexical priming help us in this regard, as we are expert user of those expressions, those utterances, or we can associate different words, phrases, or nouns in a different situations with good mastery and command. We are fluent speaker of that language, so lexical priming help us to make uh, our speaking in a better way, or it assists us to become a fluent user. What it means to know a word. Knowing all this is what it means to know a word. Native speakers have acquired a large corpus of examples of the words of English in their typical context, and from this they learn how the words are used. So, as we have already discussed, that the native speakers have more exposure as compared to non-native speakers. We are non-native speakers. We don't have such exposure, many exposures, or many circumstances in which we are indulged and we use those words or expressions or statements repeatedly. By contrast, non-native speakers have typically heard or read relatively few examples of even the more common words in natural use, and have therefore had less opportunity to learn the way these words typically occur. So native speakers have more exposure, non-native speakers have not more exposure, or they have very few examples, very limited exposures to use those expressions or those associated words. However, from another point of view, there is no difference in principle between a native speaker and a non-native speaker, in that both never stop being learners. So the differences in practice between a native speaker and a non-native speaker are twofold. Firstly, a non-native speaker is typically exposed to less language and to a narrow range of language. And secondly, non-native speaker has previously been primed for another language, that is L1. For example, we are, as a non-native speaker of English language, we are um, our L1 is Urdu, or L2 is Punjabi, or L1 is Punjabi, or L2 is Urdu. There are different other languages that we also knows. So priming could be affected in this way if a speaker knows more than one languages. So these are the detailed account. This is the detailed accounts of the lexical priming. It's the end of our today's lecture.